Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed, lab-proven to work fast, and proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Weight loss solutions are not one size fits all. Hers makes it simpler to get started and stick with a weight loss plan, backed by expert-guided online care that puts your weight loss goals first. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
Hey, ghoul friends. It's me, Adrian, or Ayden. Either way, I am still your host, and you are still listening to Susto, the podcast of paranormal folklore from Latin American cultures. Speaking of, this week, the 15th specifically, so Monday, a few days ago, kicked off the beginning of Latina Heritage Month. Listen, you know that if you're here, we celebrate that pretty much every episode all year long, but I encourage you this month especially to really go full force and support Latina creators. As a matter of fact, I want y'all to do me a big favor and tag some of your favorite Latina podcasters below. Bonus points if they are also spooky, and I mean generally spooky, not just my sisters over at Spooky Tales, but leave your favorite podcasters, your favorite Latina podcasters in the comments below for everybody to check out, and I'll of course find a way to share those. And also on the social media posts everywhere, tag everybody everywhere all at once during this month so that we can get that momentum and that train going, because what a very exciting time, am I right? I'm going to go ahead and jump into the quick updates that we've been going over these last few times. I've already mentioned them before, but I do not want you all to forget. I want you to save the date. So coming up in October 10th is the Hollow Weird event at the Ruiz branch of the Austin Public Library, and that is from 6 to 9 p.m. At 6 p.m., I will kick off the event with my storytelling session, which was really fun last time. It was such a good crowd. Everybody was so engaged and had really good questions. So I'm so excited for that to happen again this time. But tonight's going to be a whole evening. So after my storytelling session and my discussion and all that, at around 7:15, they're doing a horror trivia. So we will put our spooky knowledge to the test. And then after that and throughout the rest of the evening, they're going to be doing some fun spooky crafts. I'm calling it witchcrafting. You know, that's just what I like to say what I do. You all have seen my pegboards up here before and all the stuff that I do. So that's going to be a lot of fun, of course. And that is a free event. It's an adult event as well. I already made the post about it on social media. So again, make sure to check out Susto Podcast on every platform for any and all updates on the show, including live events. And the next one that we have scheduled is Halloween night, October 31st. It is the Night Owl Spirit Social that starts at 5 p.m. and it goes all the way to midnight at the ballroom, again here in Austin. I will be speaking on a panel, and the panel is called When the Veil is Thinnest, and I will be tabling all night. They always have a ton of cool things to do. They are sold out of their VIP tickets. They do still have the general admission tickets available, so go visit thenightowlpodcast.com and get your tickets before they sell sell out because I guarantee you they will. They did last year and they will again. And it's a great event. You do not want to miss it. And it's Halloween night. So you know it's going to be super lit. Everyone's going to be in their costumes. I honestly, listen, I'm starting to panic because I do not know what I'm going to be for Halloween. So I need to do some serious thinking and figure it out because time is running out. The clock is a ticking. So we'll see. I'll do a costume reveal that night. And if you happen to be there, please stop by my table, say hi. Let's get a cute selfie of our costumes at either of these events. Please come by, say hi. As always, y'all know I'm not shy. Hello, that's why I'm doing this. But again, you can follow at Susto Podcast on every social media platform for any and all updates on the show. Before we get into today's episode, I do want to continue with reading Spotify comments. This has been really fun for me because it's kind of like, I feel like it's making me stay up to date with the comments, where before I would kind of let them sit there for a long while and then respond to them eventually. And this is good because now there's a clear schedule of I'm going in and I'm checking them as we prepare for the episode. So for these comments, we're going to get started on the Dance with the Devil episode. Amy said, just got into your podcast and I love it. Thank you, Amy. So do I. Amy says, I love that you state your sources. Listen, as always, direct links are in the Susto Google Docs on Patreon, but I do vocalize those for you all so you can check them out because they're just really cool. Amy continues, this episode, again, the Dancing with the Devil episode, reminds me of Beyonce's song Church Girl. She not trying to hurt nobody, LOL. Listen, and I responded to Amy on Spotify and I said, I will take any comparison to Miss Sasha Fierce that I can get. That's an amazing compliment. Thank you so much. That it just made your brain go there. The next comment is on the UFOs over at the Teotihuacan episode, which is the most recent episode. You can check that one out. And Andrew wrote, saying the word ufologist, and then in parentheses, Andrew wrote OO-fologist. So ufologist? I'm not sure. But I ended up landing on ufologist when I was running through the pronunciations in that episode. And again, Andrew said, saying the word ufologist for the first time and landing on the correct pronunciation is 2 thumbs up. Andrew, thank you so much. I'm glad that somebody confirmed that I eventually got it right because I said, I'm just going to throw this out there and see what happens. Hopefully it lands. Hopefully it sticks. And also on that episode, we got a comment from Alejandro, and Alejandro said, yeah, so about that Susto TM field trip, my mom wants to talk to your mom before she can sign my permission slip. Listen, all we need are signatures from your parent or guardian and $3 so that we can get pizza after the field trip. Do y'all remember that? I loved that. I loved just like $3 could get us a trip to Peter Piper Pizza, and we were set, and it was so much fun. Also, I'm an adult now, so I can literally just go out and do that if I want. But the pizza's not $3 anymore. That's the only thing. Oh well. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. And once again, this is a Letters from the Beyond episode. So thank you so much to everybody who wrote in for that. If you want to hear your story on one of these episodes, please visit my website. It's sustopodcast.com or the link tree in my social media bios. It's linktr.ee/susto, and you can submit your stories on there. And remember, you can also send in photo, video, or audio recordings. It doesn't have to be solely a written story. It could be one or the other or both. I'll take it all. It's also fun to see. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get into this collection of Letters from the Beyond.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed, lab-proven to work fast, and proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
This first letter is from Izzy on Discord. Hello, Izzy. Exclusive access on the Discord channel for Best School Friends on patreon.com/SustoPodcast. And Izzy wrote, OMG, y'all. I just remembered something, LOL, and we can figure out if my brother was crazy or if I was in denial. Just for the record, while I am a cautious skeptic, my brother was a full non-stop believer in the supernatural and lover of horror. There was one day we were driving back home in the dark, and it was mildly foggy. My brother was driving that night because I didn't have a license, even though I was 2 years older. We were on a long, dark highway in rural Idaho, singing along to Lucero's Electricidad, when we suddenly hit a thick patch of fog. It felt like we had driven right into a cloud. Everything went hazy, and we couldn't see any lights or other cars around. At first, we were just having fun, but I could tell my brother was getting nervous. He was struggling to see the road. Then, I noticed something strange out of the corner of my eye. In the fog, there was this weird blob that looked like smoke or heat coming up from the side of the road. It reminded me of the way steam rises off a hot grill, all wavy and squiggly, but taller and more disorienting. And again, the fog was thick, so we really shouldn't have seen anything. My brother suddenly shouted, "What is that? That's a man!" He swerved the car, and I could feel the panic rising. "Calm down, it's just a vent or something," I tried to reassure him, but he wasn't having it. We were on a stretch of highway surrounded by fields, so he wasn't buying the vent idea. "I know what I saw," he insisted. We drove a little further, and he saw the shape again, still hazy in the fog. I could see how freaked out he was getting, and at this point I instinctively knew he was driving in the other lane in his panic. I was trying to keep him calm while my heart raced. "I know what I saw," he kept saying, his voice full of worry. I didn't think it looked like a person, but at that moment, it felt like a scene from a scary movie. Just then, we were leaving the fog patch into an area that was completely clear, and I saw headlights, and I realized we were heading straight for another car. With a rush of adrenaline, I grabbed the wheel and yelled, "Get back in the lane!" We jerked back into our lane just in time to avoid a crash. After that close call, we pulled over to the side of the road, both of us shaking and trying to catch our breath. What had we just experienced? The eerie blob still lingered in our minds as we tried to calm down. Now, I was actually less concerned about the eerie blob and more about the fact my brother almost killed us over nothing. I was so mad. To me, again, I saw it as just this weird smoke or heat from a vent or two. I don't know if I've told this to you all or if I gave the abridged version, but yeah, the fog reminded me of it. He swore up and down it was a ghost. He actually passed on that highway, so when he first passed away, I thought about that moment and wondered if that was like some sign. I'm a skeptic, but loss can get you thinking about those things. It's a funny story in hindsight. At the time, I was so angry I refused to go anywhere with him for weeks, but now I laugh at just the absurdity of it. Izzy, thank you so much for sharing that, especially such a really intense moment with your brother before his passing. And it's kind of like, it gives me chills to think that he passed away on that same highway where he was seeing this thing or this vision or shape or whatever it was in the fog. So I can see how you would wonder. It's very easy to think, is there a connection between those things where before he passed, he saw something in that area that scared him and it worried him? Yeah, it makes you think, like I was talking about in the most recent episode, the UFOs episode. I mentioned about how sometimes the spiritual, I feel it can feel very sci-fi because it starts to go into this area of timelines crossing or overlapping or folding in on each other. And it's like, how do you explain these kinds of things, right? It's just one of those things that maybe we will never understand, or at least not for a long time, but it's really intense to think about. And especially through grief and through loss, you really have I don't want to say nothing, but it's almost like the only thing you have are your thoughts. Is you just have to like, you keep thinking about this person and the moments that you shared, whether they were scary at the time and fun now, or they're puzzling or confusing. I don't know. I don't know how to verbalize that. I just hope that I'm doing your story some justice, and I thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, this next story is from SNM81, and this was in a TikTok comment section. I posted a video and I got some responses on there. They gave me permission to share this story, of course, and they commented on this video. When we were younger, my sister would have bizarre dreams of being surrounded by black candles and would wake up to hearing 3 knocks at her bedroom window around the 3 a.m. witching hour. I got to hear it as well when she made me sleep in her room, but I noticed that she would be in active sleep paralysis and struggling to wake up. My mom took her to a curandera because she sensed that someone in our family had done work on her. She cleansed her and sent her home with some herbs to make a tea. It made her throw up black liquid. After that, all of this went away. Come to find out, it was a tia that did the work on her. The 3 knocks is because someone sent you something, an entity, negative vibes, or a muerto. My sister later told us that during her nightmares with the candles, she would see my aunt in these dreams as well, but never said anything. So after the curandera did her thing, that same tia encountered a lot of misfortune. She married into the family, so she wasn't blood related. My uncle divorced her, and one of our cousins, her son, was murdered. He was a federal in Mexico, and eventually her small business went under. My mom thinks whatever she did came back to her threefold. All this went down with my sister after she brought up that my cousin was actively involved in cartel bribes and misusing his position as a federal. It was a lot, but also so scary that someone could pay to do work on someone else like that. That is really creepy. Yeah, it's really unsettling. And I feel like that's usually how it happens, like the most intense workings. And when I say work, if you all are unfamiliar, that's what they call, I'm going to use really vague terms here. That's what some people will call brujeria or witchcraft, or like specifically when someone is doing a hex or a curse or a spell on someone else. It's like they did work on this person. But yeah, I was saying it can be really unsettling because sometimes the most intense workings, they're coming from someone that you know personally, and that you would probably trust, but because they can get close enough to you to do a more intense kind of thing. So yeah, it's really unsettling. I've heard about people finding jars of dirt in their homes that they had never seen before. They don't know where it came from, and then they take it to somebody else to help them because it looks pretty witchy in nature. And then whoever they take it to, like another, like a bruja or someone, they'll say, yeah, this is graveyard dirt. That's actually an example from someone that I know. I'm not going to say who, but that's an example that they found the jar and they took it to someone and they said, oh, this is a working. This is like someone's trying to do brujeria, like bad brujeria on you. And so they had to undo it and all that. But again, you have to think this is someone that was close enough to get into that person's house and do that to them unknowingly because you just trust them in there. So this is why you got to put your wards up, your protections, you got to do your uncrossings and all that stuff. Listen, I'm not a pro. I'm just saying you got to protect yourself. This also makes me think of the sleep paralysis episode that I did, which was, I think, the La Pisadera, which is the Brazilian night hag. And she's the creature that they say causes sleep paralysis because she's like on their chest. But I know that in that episode, and I'll put the link in the description below, but in that episode, I talk about a study that was done. Was it somewhere in like Norway or Sweden? I don't know, somewhere like that. They did this like sleep study where they found that people who were under more stress or experienced something traumatic, but like generally stress, they suffered more sleep paralysis than somebody who was under less amounts of stress. I think it is a factor of sleep paralysis. I also do think that sleep paralysis can be spiritual in nature, but and that it can be both sometimes, that maybe if you're under stress, it leaves you more vulnerable to a spiritual attack of some sort or a spiritual encounter, if you will. And I even talk about in that episode an encounter that I had when I was sleeping over at a friend's place. place. And it was just her and I in her apartment. And this was at a really, really, really stressful point in my life. Like I was going through it. It was really bad. And I had a really intense sleep paralysis. And I just remember waking up and I could hear, I think, what did you say? Did you say chanting? Okay, surrounded by black candles and hearing the 3 knocks. Okay, so in mine, I could see like fire. So it could have been candlelight. It could have been like a campfire, bonfire style kind of fire, but just that like kind of like flickering, glowing. And I could hear chanting, like multiple voices, like a group of voices. I could hear chanting, like circling. Oh, I just got chills so bad. Oh, I got really scared. I scared myself. Chills, like the voices, like as if they were moving around me and they were chanting and I could not move. You guys, I can't stop getting chills. I hate this so bad. And I couldn't move. And I finally, when I was able to like snap out of it, I literally like, I never moved so fast. It was like I like flew, you know, in a cartoon, when the cloud, the shape of that person is left behind like a cloud. It was that. I flew because I was sleeping in her living room and I jumped out of the couch that I was on, or the mattress, whatever it was. I jumped out of it and I ran to her room, and I literally just ran and I jumped in her bed with her, like literally like if she was my mom and I was a little kid, and I just got in there and she was just like half asleep, like, what's going on? And I was like, I had a nightmare. And she was like, okay, yeah, go to sleep here. And I told her about it the next morning because I didn't want to wake her up in the middle of the night. And I wish I had checked the time, but I'm also glad I didn't, because had I seen that it was 3 a.m, I would have just, I would have gone straight to a church. I would have been like, we have to go. Take me to a church now. But yeah, I didn't tell her about it until the next day because I don't want to wake her up and tell her, hey, I just heard this in your living room, and freak her out. But yeah, that was a really, really scary experience. And I've had sleep paralysis several times before, but that is like the really notable one. And again, I feel like it coincides with that stress sleep study or theory or what have you, because again, that was a really tumultuous point in my life. I think that's a good word to use there. Again, you can check out that episode. I'll put the link in the description notes below. All right, we're moving on to our final letter for this episode, and this comes from Asha. And Asha actually did use that Google form that I have. So those other ones, I had been collecting them from other spaces, and I finally went through and I checked the Letters from the Beyond Google form because, hey, I'm not a Google doctor, I'm not a Google scientist. I didn't know that you would not get notifications when people sent their responses. I thought I would get them, so I wasn't checking it, but I just checked and I had a couple in there. So those of you that have submitted one, thank you. If you're not on this episode, you will be in the next one for sure, but I'm checking it now regularly. So please, again, you can visit sustopodcast.com or my link tree. That's linktr.ee/susto. It's in my social media bios. And there's a submit a story, tell me a story button, and you can send it here. So Asha, thank you for using the Google form. This one's been sitting in there for a while, so thank you so much for your patience. But Asha wrote, I have a couple stories, some creepy and one heartwarming / tear-jerking for me. So I'll start at my youngest. When we were little, we lived in a house where a murder happened on the corner of the property, but as kids, we didn't know. We would always leave toys on the floor in our toy room, and at night you could hear shuffling, like someone not picking up their feet, just kind of dragging them. This happened a couple times, but the real chill down the back of your spine, literally, came later. I told my mom about it, and she said, if it happens again, say, you're scaring me, please stop. Which, I'm going to interrupt there. I've heard this before, and I've done this before. This is something that my mom used to tell me growing up, is basically you can take control. If you're scared, you can essentially set a boundary. You can draw a line and say, stop, leave me alone. And I had to do this at one point when I was younger because I could feel something around me when I was in like high school. And I remember I think I've told this story before, but I remember walking down the hallway at night. I think I'd gotten a drink of water, used the restroom, something, but I was walking back to my room and I could feel something behind me. And I stopped what I was doing. I stopped walking, like stood my ground, and I said, you need to leave me alone. I just felt like I meant it. When you say something, you're like, oh, like I meant that. I, as Justin Bieber would say, I stood on business, and I said it and I meant it, and it like I didn't feel it anymore. So sometimes it's as simple as setting a boundary, but that should be the first thing you try. And then, unfortunately, other times you may have to escalate into some more intense solutions, if you will. But anyway, we'll continue. Asha continues, we share a wall with our parents, but we went to sleep one night and, of course, here goes the shuffling. But it left the toy room and entered into our room. Upon entering the room, I could hear the steps getting closer and closer and closer until something began to slowly touch me. It went from the top of my back to the middle of my back. I sure as heck stayed still and said, Mom, is that you? She responded, no, go back to sleep. I calmly said, please stop. You're scaring me. It never came back in my room or our toy room. Talk about chills. Not only did it respond, but it said, I'm not your mom. Go to sleep. No, bitch. Get out. Leave me alone. What do you mean you're not my mom and you're touching my back? Get out. Get out right now. It's the end of you and me. It's the end of you, Ghost, really. I just had to take my pillow, my back support away because I'm getting hot and sweaty because that freaked me out. Ew. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. This says, another time we just moved into an apartment and we were sleeping when I felt my husband kind of jolt awake. As he did, I looked up and saw this big man shadow standing in front of us. I screamed, sat up, and started swinging my pillow. It backed off and went into a corner, in which time I stood up and turned on the light to see nothing. You know what, Asha, you were my kind of ghoul because you said, talk about standing on business. You said, no, we're fighting now. Now we're fighting because you're in my house and you interrupted my sleep. Asha continues, my husband said, oh, I mentioned this in a recent episode. My husband said, you saw that too? Sure did. We were telling our neighbor and he told us a man had died there, but he was a sweet but big guy. Oh, poor guy. He was probably just like, okay, so this is who lives here now. And then he got attacked and ran to the corner. But for Riki, and like I was saying, I mentioned in a recent episode, that's one of the scariest things I think that can happen is when you see or you hear something and you're with someone and before you can even bring it up to them, they tell you, did you see that? Or did you hear that? Okay, Asha continues. Next is probably the creepiest, spine-tingling, my husband needs a limpia story around. We had two things happen. The first was one time we were fooling around in the room while our son was in the living room playing PlayStation, and we heard at our door, in a whisper, Mommy? Daddy? We stopped, and I walked out to look at my son still in the same position playing PlayStation. I asked, did you need something? He was so into his game and said, no, ma'am, why? So you didn't just call me? No. I went back into the room and was officially frightened. The next thing was the worst ever. I was asleep and I just opened my eyes and saw this hairy ape-looking thing caressing my husband. I was so scared. I think it felt me open my eyes because it glanced up and looked at me with a scowl on its face. I acted asleep and closed my eyes and eventually fell asleep. I thought it was a horrible dream until the next day, my hubby said, man, I couldn't sleep. I kept feeling like hair or something. Needless to say, I nearly died inside. I didn't tell him because I was so scared to acknowledge it and make him scared. He has always said he feels like something evil is around him and will wake him up at night or just send him into anxiety attacks. I tried looking into it, but there really wasn't much that I could find. Maybe the masterful Ayden can find something related. Asha, thank you, first of all. I don't know if I am a master and expert at this stuff. I certainly try. But I mean, like we said earlier, and like your mom told you, maybe he can start at that level. Next time he feels something or he feels that onset of there's something around me, something lurking that's making me not feel good, he can try and set that boundary and say, hey, leave me alone. This relationship is done. It's over. And cut it off. And if that doesn't work, then you may have to elevate it, to the next thing. But it's always okay. And I think it's kind of like an underrated or an underexplored, underappreciated. Like people maybe just don't say it enough, that sometimes you can just say something. And if you think of it like this, at their very base, at the very core, spells, we'll take it there. Spells are their words. They're made of words, right? Most times. You say things. You say what you want to happen. You say what you're trying to manifest or what have you. So you can think of it that way and say, this boundary, not only is this a boundary that I'm setting, it is a working, so to speak, to call back to earlier. Maybe he can try that, right? Or he can try and go get a limpia with somebody or get like a barrida with an egg to see if there's some sort of like mal de ojo on him, or if he's suffering from susto perhaps, and that's what's, causing those feelings as well. There's options for sure, but I would say start with the small ones. There's no need to go super intense. Don't try and take him to get like an exorcism or something. It doesn't sound like that's necessary. No need to go that intense is what I'm saying. So we'll continue here. Enough of the spooky and scary. On to my beautiful story I hold dear to my heart. I had the most wonderful dad who was in the delivery room, behind a curtain lol, when I delivered my firstborn. He was in my life since I was 6 months old, and you couldn't tell him or I anything about anything, like stepdad. He was my dad, and I was his daughter. My dad was ill, and was going to pass any day, so I was there all the time I could be. It had been a long day, and the hospice nurse had come and said he would be fine for the night since he was still breathing okay. We left for home, which was about 20 minutes away. I write this with tears in my eyes. Once we get there, we are getting ready for bed and about to turn out the light, and a big bang hits our front window and then hits the side back window about 15 feet away, like it ran through the room. We were kind of weirded out, but hey, it was a long day, just get in bed. I swear, 20 minutes later, my cousin knocks on my door and says, "Asha, I'm sorry, your dad just passed away." I was so heartbroken, but then the sound came back in my mind, and I knew then it was my dad saying goodbye. My son, 2 years old, would come out of his room days later saying, "Papa's so funny." Another story about my dad was when I was giving birth to my other son and I was alone in the room with a nurse who couldn't hit my vein for the IV. The nurse called someone else who hit it but forgot to cap it, and needless to say, blood was spewing everywhere. Okay, first off, I need to interrupt here. That is crazy, and I hope that you were somehow like compensated, or at the very least, a huge apology from this hospital, because that is crazy. Okay, this says blood was spewing everywhere. I guess I fainted, but I went to a beach, and of course, there was my dad in the distance. I could feel the air and sprinkles of water in my face, and then I heard the nurse saying, "Come on, Vanessa, come back to me." And I woke up and passed out again, and my dad was closer, reaching out. Just as I was about to embrace him, I woke up for good. Some might say it was just a dream, but the thing I take from that is my dad just wanted me to know he was there in spirit. Asha, y'all know I'm a big crybaby. Why would you do this to me? Thank you so much for sharing that. It really is a beautiful story, and you truly should keep that close to your heart because that is really beautiful. Asha finishes this up and says, "Well, that is it for now on the roller coaster of my experiences, lol, but I hope you enjoyed them. Thanks for always being a badass storyteller and open to hearing other stories as well." Thank you for telling me that I'm a badass storyteller. It's truly something that I put work into, and so I'm glad that you enjoy it. And yes, I do love hearing other stories like yours, Asha, and everybody else who wrote in today, and everybody who will write in the future. Again, thank each of you so much for sharing your stories today. Welcome back, ghoul friends. Thank you so much again for listening to this entry of Letters from the Beyond. One more time, remember that you can visit my website, sustopodcast.com, or the link tree in my social media bios. One more time, you say it with me, linktr.ee/susto, to send in your stories to be featured on the next Letters from the Beyond episode. And as always, the easiest way to support the show is by leaving positive ratings and reviews. Reviews like this one from Little Burrito, Little Burrito wrote, amazing storytelling, great content. Anyone into the paranormal would love this podcast. There is a focus on folklore from Latin cultures, and a lot of them remind me of stories told when I was a kid, and it's so fun to hear where they originated from. Little Burrito, thank you so much. I also think that this is great content, and I also love this podcast. That is one of the most rewarding things to hear, by the way. I've had several people tell me this, that it reminds them of the stories that they told when they were a kid, or it makes them feel like they're at home sharing stories with their family, with their friends. That truly, like, if I had nothing else and I had just that from you all, that I'm able to bring you that feeling, it means the world to me. And I'm going to stop before I get emotional, because I'm already emotional from Asha's beautiful story. So I'm going to put a cap on that there. But thank you so much for that review, Little Burrito, once again. So make sure to leave, again, positive ratings and reviews wherever you are listening. One more time, it is the easiest way to support the show. You can also support Susto by signing up to be a patron for $3 or more a month. You get several perks and benefits like early and ad-free episodes. You can even get video versions of this episode. So we've been making some really intense eye contact this whole time, Best Ghoul Friends and I. If you're interested, visit patreon.com/sustopodcast. And a big ghoulish thank you to this episode's patrons. You are Liza, Rachel, Alejandra, Luther, April, D, Josette, Sam, Mandy, Jules, Lori, Jeannie, Desiree A, Neresa, Rachel A, Azucena, Marlene, Lainey, Desiree C, Carla, Ricardo, Vanessa, Maritza, Nieves, Manormal, Iris, Mad, Flor, Selena, Nightingale, Clint, Rachel W, and Armani. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my cavernous cold heart. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me today one more time. I will haunt you later, and until then, no te asustes. Bye.